Hey guys and gals, friends of YouTube, Love to Fly Helis here. Today we're going to be adjusting valves on a nitro 4-stroke engine. Thought I'd show you guys. Some of you guys out there have been wanting more information on stuff, so for those of you that don't know how to do this, I will show you. It's very simple. This is a Magnum 70 FS 70 4-stroke. I've had this engine on here for 6 years, I believe. I have never touched it. It has purred like a kitten since the day I put it on there. Never made any adjustments whatsoever to the valves, needles, nothing. Anyway, about a month ago, the last time we got to fly, it quit on me, quit running. It'd been kind of acting up at idle, and it finally quit, just quit running. But I'm pretty sure it's the valves out of adjustment, and I figured one of them might be loose. I don't know, we'll see. But they're very easy to set. You will need a feeler gauge with multiple sizes. You can get them at any automotive store. They're not very expensive. O'Reilly's, AutoZone, any place like that. You can get them. Walmart might have them, I don't know, but I know auto parts stores has them. So you're going to need a feeler gauge with your little feelers, and they're all marked on what size. This particular engine calls for a .04 and a .010. Well, this one, apparently I have a weird one, because mine goes from 3 to 5. I don't have a 4, so I'm going to use the 5, which is close enough. And it doesn't have a 10, so I'm going to use the 11. And the way this will be set, the 5 will have very little resistance. The 10 or 11 should be real tight on here. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is know what your engine is. And if you don't have the manual for it, which I have my manuals somewhere, I'm not sure where it's at, but I got boxes of them. I always keep them. But the internet's a wonderful thing. All you got to do is get on your search engine. I typed in Magnum 70 4-stroke, and boom, it popped up all kinds of manuals. And I actually pulled up the manual from Hobby People. That's where I bought the engine too. Anyway, pull up your manual, and down toward the very bottom, the last pages, it will show you how to adjust these and give you the settings and everything. So let's go ahead and take this apart. You'll need to, one thing you'll need to do, I'd pull the glow plug out so that we can make sure the piston's at the top. Let me get this out of here right quick. I'm going to try to stay out of your view here so you can see this. Okay, now when you pull a glow plug out, you gotta be careful. There's a little O-ring or a metal washer that'll stick up in there. You want to be sure and pull that out and put it back on your glow plug. Okay, now you can take a little flashlight and shine in there and see the top of the piston, and you want this at the top, piston at the very top of the head, so your valves will both be shut when you do this. So now we're going to take an Allen wrench. Let's take the valve cover off. Let me zoom this in just a little bit more for you when I get in here. Okay, loosen those up. I'd already loosened them, broke them loose, so be sure you snug them back down good when you put them back on. Kind of weird, there is no gasket on this. There's no valve cover gasket, which, I don't know, to me it's kind of strange. It doesn't, I don't know, look like it'd be better if it had a gasket on there where it would seal better, but apparently they don't think so. Okay, anyway, let me get something here. Alright, here's your rocker arms right here. There's 2 of them. You have an intake valves up here, exhaust valve down here. And you have 2 rocker arms, and they're bolted on with this center bolt. Your valves themselves will have a spring on them, a little cap, and a snap ring. This is your set screws back here. So we're going to crank that around until the piston is at the top and centered. There we go. Both valves are completely shut, which the rocker arms will be out this direction. That's what you want. Alright, we're going to take the old 5 Just see what kind of clearance we've got in here. See, it's not even tight at all. I mean, I can't even, that should be a slight resistance and there's none. So that's loosened up. Both of them are very, very loose. If your valves are not opening to the proper opening, the engine will not run right. And if they get too bad out of whack, it'll just quit running. I had one on a 75 four-stroke one time. Oh, probably 6 to 8 flight in. It just quit in the air, dead stick. And when I pulled the valve cover off, one of these set nuts had come loose, and the whole thing was loose. So I got my deal out of my box and reset it. Took right off. Another thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set these while the engine is cold. Don't do it while it's hot. Okay. I need to get a little screwdriver and a little bitty wrench I forgot to get out for these nuts. Let me go do that right quick, and then I'll be right back. Also, you're going to need a very, very fine tipped screwdriver, narrow, to go in this little groove right here. It's in the set screw. It's a real, real narrow, skinny little slot, so you're going to have a fine, fine tip screwdriver. It's a 5mm nut. I did not have a 5mm wrench. 6 is as small as I had in my Craftsman set, so I got a 5mm socket out and I put it in my vice grips. It's got a hole through it, so my screwdriver will fit through there, so we'll use that. Okay, let me get zoomed in here where you can hopefully see what I'm doing. And so get my plane centered up. Alright, that ought to work, huh, if I don't move it around. Okay. First thing we're going to do is loosen. Oh, before I forget, you've got to crank your, I took the glow plug out. You got to crank your engine over to where your piston is at the very top. So both your valves are completely open, or shut. When they're, that's open, that's closed. So you got to picture this on the inside, and that's pushing it down and opening the opening in there. So that's closed right there. And you want your piston at the very top where they're both completely closed. Okay? Now, we're going to loosen these little nuts. We'll just do one at a time. Your little thin screwdriver will fit in that set screw, and that will turn. It's got a little, this is a set screw. It's got a hollow end on the other end of it, and there's a rod that comes up through here from your camshaft, and that's what pushes these rocker arms up and down. So over time, these right here clicking on top of each other, and this little rod in here, it wears down. So that's what causes your valves to not open as good. They wear over time, even though they're lubricated. Okay, on this, what we want, we're supposed to have a 4, but I don't, so I got a 5. We want to stick that in there, and it's loose. So that means it's worn. So we want that, just a slight resistance. Sorry, my battery on my camera went dead. I plugged it in. Anyway, on the 5, we want a slight resistance. Not real tight, but you want to be able to feel a little bit of tension on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn that set screw to the right until we start feeling a little tension on that feeler gauge, gap gauge, whatever you want to call it. Okay, that's a little too snug. Alright, there's a tiny bit of resistance right there. And it only takes just a hair to turn this to make it tight. Okay, there's a little bitty tiny bit of resistance. So that's about where we want that. Now, without moving that set screw, I've got to tighten that nut down. So what I'm going to do is, I've got my slot eyeballed, it's kind of sideways. I'm going to put this on there, and then I'm going to find my groove with my screwdriver. There it is. Now I'm going to hold that while I tighten the set nut. Let's go just a little bit more here. Well, I've got to find my groove again. Alright, come on. Well, there it is. It's kind of hard to feel in there. Alright, now let's try our gauge again. There we go. We got just a slight amount of resistance. Okay, now if you take the 10, which is supposed to be, this is 11, which, like I said, that's 100,000ths of an inch. You can't see that with your eyeball. So it should be real snug, and it is. We got it real tight. And as long as this one has just a slight bit of resistance, we're good. Okay, there's that one. Now let's do the bottom one. Alright, we're going to open it up a little and take our 5, and we're going to put that in there in the bottom one, and we're going to tighten the set screw until we feel resistance. There we go. Feel just a little bit of resistance. That's what we want. So let's tighten that one back down. Hard to hit that little groove inside there. There, I got it. We just don't want that set screw to move on us. Okay. There we go. A little bit of resistance. The 11 is nice and tight. There you go. Your valves are reset. Now, I have the manual on this engine somewhere, but if you don't, I can't remember if I talked about this in the first section or not, but internet's a wonderful thing. All you got to do is go to your search engine, type in your engine. I typed in Magnum 70 4-stroke and popped up all kinds of stuff. So it will give you a page down toward the bottom of the manual, tells how to set your valves, and it should be in any 4-stroke manual. And if you don't have a manual, like I say, just look it up. OS, Magnum, YS, whatever you got, you can find a manual on it online and find out where your settings are. Most of these are probably generally about the same, but there could be some difference in them. So anyway, valves are all reset, ready to go. Now what we're going to do, put the valve cover back on. Let's see. Well, be sure and get this the right direction. This has got a little hump, if you can see it right there. And that's for these, when these come up. Let me get my cord out of there. When those raise up, like that right there, that's what that's for, is to clear that. So you want to be sure and get that on the right direction. So we're going to put that toward the front. Now what you want to do is find your holes, get them started, and then start your second one, because that's got some slop in it. So you don't want to tighten the first one down until you get this one started, so you don't cross thread your bolts. There we go. Now we can cinch that on down. And then after we get it snugged, we will turn our wrench around. Don't strip them, but make sure they're good and snug, so your valve cover doesn't come off in flight. Okay, there you go, guys. That's how you adjust the valves on a nitro 4-stroke engine. It's that simple. Thanks for watching. See you at the field.